I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until the chain on that gate rattled in the wind and I saw the razor wire glinting at the top. One locked gate, new steel fresh concrete, a keypad that hadn't been there the last time I drove out, blocking the easement that was literally my way to the outside world. Then a woman in a crisp blazer stepped into frame like she owned the sun and smiled at me like I was the problem. "Just sign the agreement," she said, tapping a clipboard. "Pay the dues and you'll have access again." Her tone wasn't angry. That was the worst part. It was certain. Like trapping someone on their own land was a normal Tuesday in the homeowners association. I stared at her, then at the padlock, then down at the gravel road that used to connect my place to State Highway 41. My truck idled, my hands tightened on the wheel, and somewhere in the back of my mind a quiet voice said, "This can't be real." My name is Ethan Parker, and that land behind me, 2 hectares of scrub pine and an old house I'd been away from for 15 years, has been in my family since the early 70s. There's a deed, there's a recorded easement, there's a survey with coordinates so boring it could put caffeine to sleep. And yet here I was, looking at a gate like I'd wandered into someone else's life. The woman introduced herself as Deborah Whitman, president of the Willow Ridge HOA. She didn't ask why I was back. She didn't ask if I needed anything. She just told me what I owed, as if the moment my tires touched her neighborhood's airspace, I became her personal subscription service. I asked one question, calm, controlled, the kind of calm you use when you're trying not to lose it. "Who gave you permission to build across my easement?" Deborah tilted her head like I'd asked why water is wet. "It's within our jurisdiction." I pulled the deed from my glove box, the copy I keep laminated, because I'm not new to people getting ideas. "My land isn't in your jurisdiction," I said. "Not legally, not on paper, not in reality." Deborah's smile didn't move. "Reality is membership," she said, and pointed to the line where I was supposed to sign. I backed my truck up slowly and went home the only way I could, down my own drive into my own yard, and straight into a feeling I hadn't expected, that I'd somehow become a trespasser on my own property. The letter came the next morning like they wanted to make sure I couldn't pretend this was a misunderstanding. Official-looking envelope, sharp black print, notice of delinquency, mandatory compliance, and then the number that made my stomach drop, $15,000 in back dues, plus penalties. For a homeowners association I had never joined, never voted for, never agreed to, never even heard of, until Deborah stepped out of the sunlight with her clipboard. I laughed once, short and bitter, because what else do you do when the universe is telling a joke at your expense? Then I walked outside again, stared down the line of trees where my easement ran, and realized something colder. That gate didn't just inconvenience me, it controlled me. By afternoon I heard metal on rock post hole diggers biting into soil. I watched from my porch as a crew extended chain-link fencing out from the gate like they were building a cage, not a boundary. 8 feet tall, barbed wire at the top, 20 feet out on both sides. Efficient, cold, permanent looking. And they moved like they'd done it before. I couldn't stop the construction, not that day, not without a court order. And getting a court order takes time. Days. Weeks, time I didn't have if they decided to tighten the noose. So I did the one thing I could do. I documented everything. I set up cameras, one aimed at the gate, one at the construction site, one down the road. I photographed the padlock, the razor wire, the fresh concrete. I even recorded Deborah's voice the next time she showed up, the way she said sign and pay like she was offering me a discount. At 4 o'clock I tried to leave again just to see if the situation had cooled down. And it got worse. There was a prefab guard shack, now cheap metal walls, a little window, and a man in a security uniform who stepped out like he'd been waiting for me. He raised one hand, stop, and I rolled my window down. "I need to leave," I said. He didn't even blink. "Roads closed to unauthorized vehicles." "My address is right there," I snapped, pointing back toward my house. "This is my only access." He flipped through a clipboard like I was trying to enter a concert. "You're not on the authorized list," he said. "You'll need to contact the HOA office." I could feel my pulse in my throat. "I'm going to the HOA meeting tonight," I said. 7 p.m., I'll be there." He shrugged. "Orders are orders." That was the moment it stopped being petty neighborhood drama and turned into something uglier. They weren't just blocking a road, they were actively detaining me. I called 911 with my engine still running, hands still on the wheel, trying not to sound like a man losing his mind. "I'm being illegally detained on my own property," I told the dispatcher. "A gate is blocking my legal easement. Security refuses to let me out." 30 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up outside the fence line. The deputy spoke to the guard, then came to my window with that cautious look people get when they think you might be exaggerating. I handed him my deed and explained the easement recorded notarized continuous use for over 50 years. He read it, looked at the gate, looked back at me, and said the sentence that made me want to slam my head into my steering wheel. "This is a civil matter," he said. "You need to take it up with the HOA or get a lawyer." I stared at him. "So if someone puts a lock on my only exit, that's civil?" He didn't answer. He just gave me that helpless half-shrug like the system had a script and he wasn't allowed to improvise. When his cruiser disappeared down the road, the quiet that followed wasn't peace. It was isolation. That night I sat at my kitchen table with the letter in front of me, the amount circled in red like a threat, and I felt something I hate admitting: doubt. I thought about signing. I thought about paying just to breathe again. I thought about how easy it would be to trade my pride for access, because the alternative meant a fight with an organization that had money, time, and a whole neighborhood behind it. And then I looked out the window at that fence line and realized if I gave in now, I'd be paying for the privilege of being controlled forever. So I called an attorney the next morning, Claire Bennett, recommended by a friend who used the word ruthless like it was a compliment. When she picked up, I didn't oversell it. I just told her the facts one by one and let the absurdity speak for itself. When I finished, there was a pause. Then Claire said very quietly, "Do you have proof?" I looked at the growing folder on my table: photos, videos, copies of the deed survey data, timestamps. "I have a record," I said. "Good," she replied. "Because we're going to make them explain this to a judge." The HOA tried to get ahead of us. 2 days later I found an envelope taped to my front door, heavy paper, official seal case number, a hearing date on Thursday. It claimed the HOA was seeking an injunction against me, that I'd threatened board members, trespassed, planned to damage their fence. Lies. Dressed up in legal language so clean it made my skin crawl. My stomach dropped anyway, because even when you know you're innocent, the sight of court in bold letters hits something primal. I called Claire and read her the case number. She went silent for a beat, then said, "That's impossible." "What do you mean, impossible?" I asked, already feeling heat rise behind my eyes. "I'm looking at the docket right now," she said. "There is no case filed under that number, nothing scheduled for Thursday." A cold, clear anger settled into my chest. "So, this is fake." "It's fabricated," Claire said, voice tight now. "There's no judge by that name in this county. Whoever made that committed a felony." I sat on my porch and stared at the fake summons like it might burst into flames. That was the moment my doubt snapped into focus. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't overzealous neighborhood management. This was a scheme. Claire told me, "Bag it, photograph it, don't touch it more than you have to." So I slid it into a plastic sleeve like it was evidence at a crime scene, because that's what it was. Then I did something I should have done earlier. I went to the county clerk's office in person. It was 10 miles away, and because my easement was locked down, I had to hike through the woods to reach the main road and catch a bus like I was sneaking out of my own life. Every step through those trees made me angrier. Not loud anger, not screaming anger, quiet anger, the kind that makes you methodical. At the clerk's office, I requested the HOA incorporation documents for Willow Ridge. The clerk printed a thick packet: articles, bylaws, board member list, and then a boundary map shaded in blue. My land was shaded in blue, right there. My parcel number, my acreage, my property circled and included like someone had simply decided it belonged to them. Then I saw the signature page. 5 names. 4 I didn't recognize. 1 I did mine. And next to it, a signature that looked like it was drawn by someone who'd watched me sign once and guessed the rest. It wasn't my signature. I had never consented, never signed, never agreed to be pulled under their control. I asked for a certified copy. The clerk stamped it, took my fee, and slid it across the counter. Proof. Warm from the printer, heavy in my hands. In the parking lot, I called Claire. "They forged my signature," I said, and I heard my own voice shake, not from fear anymore, but from rage. "Bring it to my office," she said. "Now." Claire compared the forged signature to my real one on the deed side by side, and it wasn't even close. She didn't smile, but I saw something like satisfaction in her eyes, the way a locksmith looks when they find the key. "This is Exhibit A," she said. "Fraudulent incorporation, illegal restraint with that gate, extortion with those dues, and now forgery, plus a fake summons. They didn't just cross a line, they sprinted past it. That afternoon, we built a case the way you build a wall, brick by brick, labeled, numbered, impossible to argue with. I organized witness statements, too. A neighbor who heard overnight construction, a delivery driver turned away at the guard shack, a former HOA member who'd been fined into silence. Then we made it public. I emailed the county attorney, the state attorney general, and the local paper with one subject line, HOA, fraud, and illegal blockade. I attached just enough to make it undeniable, and just enough to make it interesting. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. A reporter, professional voice, sharp questions. She didn't sound shocked. She sounded hungry the way good journalists do when a story has teeth. "Give me 48 hours, she said. "I'll verify everything. Then we run it." When I hung up, I checked my gate camera one more time. Deborah's car was parked outside the fence, and she was on her phone gesturing hard posture tight, like she could feel control slipping through her fingers. Thursday came fast. We filed an emergency motion for injunctive relief, and when I walked into that courtroom, I didn't feel like a trapped man anymore. I felt like a man carrying receipts. The judge read the filing, looked up and said, "These allegations are serious illegal restraint fraud forgery. Let's proceed." Claire laid it out clean. The deed from 1972, the recorded easement to State Highway 41, the photo of the steel gate padlocked razor wire on top, the demand for $15,000 in back dues and a membership agreement, the fence expansion, the guard shack, the timestamps, the witness statements. Then she put the forged signature on the screen and held up my real one from the deed. 2 signatures, 2 different hands, 2 different realities. The judge leaned forward, studied them, and his expression changed the way it changes when authority meets evidence that doesn't care about bravado. Claire added the fake summons, explained the non-existent hearing, the non-existent judge, the fabricated case number. The judge's eyebrows rose. "That's a felony," he said, flat and final. Deborah's attorney stood to respond like he was still in control, still confident. But the air had shifted. His words sounded thinner in that room, like excuses trying to wear a suit. The judge didn't let it stretch. He ordered the HOA to remove the gate and obstructions from my easement, immediately barred them from interfering again, and referred the forged documents and fake summons for investigation. Deborah's face went pale in a way that makeup can't hide. Her clipboard hung useless at her side, and for the first time since I'd returned home, she didn't look certain. She looked trapped. I walked out of that courthouse with one thought in my mind, not victory, not celebration, just relief that the world still recognized what was mine. And the lesson is simple. When someone tries to control you with fear, you beat them with proof.